All right, so welcome to another episode of the Contacts to Contracts podcast. I am Bryan Lovell, right here with my co-host, John Jones. So listen, today we're going to talk about professional standards. And I think the interesting part of professional standards in today's environment is, my guess is, some of us, myself included, have certain professional standards that were pre-COVID that may have changed in the current environment that we're in. We've been in this environment now for 6 months or so. So, I guess I'll just open it up, man. Like, has anything changed for you in terms of the way that you do business in the current environment that we're in versus pre-COVID?
Certainly, yeah. I mean, right from probably working a little bit longer, don't have the morning commute, don't necessarily have to jump in the shower early. And get up. I'm a little bit off routine, so I tend to get up and just log in early. I'm on the phone early, 7:30 in the morning. Start my day out. Certainly not dressed the way we're dressed here today. Yeah. Probably still maybe in a pair of sweatpants and a t-shirt. So it's definitely changed. I'm saving an hour and a half in the morning, just the normal get ready, make breakfast, showering and all that, and then commuting into work. It's freed up a lot of time.
Yeah. I think for me too, and I think I think a lot of people, although they're working in an at-home environment or a quarantine environment, whatever, there's still also quite a bit of people who are probably, their routine didn't change in regards to that. And I think that your schedule is one thing. We talked about appearance, professional appearance, maybe even less structure to a workday. I mean, at least for me, the old structure to the workday really kind of started with, hey, I got to get some kids ready for school. And that was like the first domino in a series of dominoes that fell to get the day started.
Sure. And
now, at least for me in my household, with the kids not going to school, I don't have to worry about getting them up, getting them breakfast, getting them dressed, getting them going. Mm-hmm. I'm getting up and just getting to work, kind of like you said. But I think that there are probably a lot of folks out there, and regardless of what industry you're in right now, that may be suffering with this a little bit. And go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Okay. That may be suffering with this a little bit, and it's because your routine is off, right? And, I think for a long, long time, and I know we've been doing this now 6 months, there's probably some out there who are struggling with, when are we going to go back to normal, right? And you're 6 months in and we're still not normal. What started as I thought was going to last 2 weeks, here we are 6 months later.
Yeah, certainly in our industry, that's the case. I mean, you're right. I mean, most folks, if you've been in an office environment, where you've had to commute in, a lot of those folks now are working remote from home. Mm-hmm. And those folks that are doing, landscaping and outdoor stuff, they're on a normal routine more so than we are. So it's definitely, depending on the industry that you're in, it's definitely impacted some more than others.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the industry obviously is a factor. If you're in retail, you're probably
not working from home.
Yeah, probably not a whole lot for you has changed. Your routines or whatever, may be the same. I just look at, what we're challenging to you today as you kind of listen to this podcast is just take a quick assessment. Hey, listen, we're doing it too. Taking a quick assessment of what were your professional standards for you or for your business before COVID started, and are you still maintaining that level of professional standards? I'll tell you another one is, today we don't go into an office environment where, in a regular office environment, most offices probably have a casual or business casual dress code. And today, some of those may be not going into an office, but you're still doing meetings via some sort of video technology like a Zoom. And I just think, I go back and I look at, when we first started back in March, I'm a guy who typically would wear a suit every day to work. Maybe not a tie, but I wore a jacket. Let's go, I'll say it that way. And when this started, I still got up every morning. I got dressed, was probably still wearing pants, maybe even a long sleeve shirt. Eventually it turned into, hey, I'll put some jeans on and a polo shirt. And then it turned into, hey, those jeans aren't really necessary. I'm going to put on some shorts and a polo shirt. And then on some days, depending on when I look at my schedule and who I'm having a Zoom with, it might be, gym shorts and a t-shirt. Do you think that the way people dress, their attire for work or their attire for the day, affects the level of their work?
I think it can. I mean, I think you should probably try to maintain the standard that you had pre-COVID. You and I talked a little bit about that, but if we're used to doing business, dressed a certain way, acting a certain way, presenting, especially via Zoom, if you're going to be on camera, you want to come across as the same person you did pre-COVID.
Oh yeah.
You don't want to, and we've talked about this a little bit. A lot of folks are, wearing a T-shirt now and even a ball cap or something like that. And I know we are from home and remote, but we are in the financial services industry, and I think it's important that we represent ourselves the way we would in a normal market.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think you have to be mindful of your audience. Is one thing too. And I think, right now with technology the way it is, you're also seeing a lot of people doing like some Facebook Live stuff, or, a lot of Zoom technology. And I think you're right. I'm seeing a lot more of somebody who you normally would see dressed professionally on, say, a Facebook Live is today wearing a t-shirt and a ball cap. And I think probably what happens is, and listen, if that's you, I'm not throwing stones at you by any means.
I think that's okay. I think if that was your attire pre-COVID, that's fine. Stick to that. That's how folks know you out there. That's how you represent yourself.
Yeah. I'm just saying, and if that's what you're doing today, I'm not throwing stones at you. I'm just saying, we need to be mindful of the audience that we're in. Like I said, I check my calendar almost every morning before I get dressed of who do I have appointments with that day? Are any of them going to be Zoom? What am I going to be doing where somebody might be able to, see myself? But I will say, like on the mornings that I put on some shorts and a t-shirt, I definitely feel a bit more casualness. Is that a word?
I think it is, yes.
Casualness. I feel more casualness about my day than I do on this morning I got up and put on some pants and a dress shirt to come to the office. And it just feels different. And I think that the way that you feel...
You mean tighter?
Yes, they are definitely tighter. The way that you feel or the way that you look on the outside, I think a lot of times reflects how you feel on the inside too.
Sure.
Unfortunately, it shouldn't be that way, by the way. Like your appearance of yourself shouldn't determine your self-worth for yourself. But I think in some cases, the way that we gear up or we get ready for the day certainly can do that. And that's my thoughts.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, we can segue in that we did do a little recent traveling for the first time since pre-COVID.
Yes.
And it brought us back to the same place we left in mid-March, right? I mean, so that was kind of surreal.
Some people right now are like, wait a minute, you guys went out in public. Not only did we go out in public, we went to a mortgage conference.
FAMP.
Out of town in a hotel. We had a great time. By the way, I'll tell you, I felt safe.
Very safe.
I felt safe. I mean, obviously you and I, we tried to be smart. We used more hand sanitizer than I can ever remember using in my life. Obviously we wore masks. We practiced social distancing, but I'm saying like the conference, those who put it on, I thought did a remarkable job.
Did an amazing job, yes.
And they had some extra steps in place that you had to adhere to on a daily basis before they would let you pass the threshold to even go into the conference. And there, it was weird to walk into a big auditorium and the seats be so far
Spread
apart.
out.
And you and I are trying to talk to each other and we're probably disrupting, oh man, that was a really good point. I have a great idea. And we're trying to share it underneath our breath. And but I had to shout at you for you to hear it, because we sat so far apart. But man, I had to try on a lot of clothes before I packed my bag to go on that trip. Some of them,
as did I.
Some of them might have shrunk the clothes.
They did. They naturally do.
They naturally do. That's, yeah.
We joked a little bit about that. Had we been wearing full pants, instead of shorts,
yes,
from day one, we probably
had we never moved to the shorts
that situation
while we were working at home. Yeah, if you had to put that suit on every day or those pants and that jacket every day, you probably
one day we would have noticed.
You probably would have been like, hey, these are starting to feel a little bit tight. Maybe I ought to dial back in the diet, but. I think we've probably beat a dead horse here on the attire, but I think there's some other things that we should consider pre-COVID versus, the current working environment. And I think one of those is your schedule. And you just talked about how your schedule's actually providing more time for you to do a little bit more work, which we can have a whole conversation on that.
Yep.
Here in a minute. But I think that, for some of us, there are other distractions that are involved in the day, right? You're saying, hey, this is freeing me up some time. But there are some professionals out there who are having to deal with the kids being home, or the daycare not be open, or they're the teacher of their students who are working at home, and the schedule gets a little bit more difficult. Or I think a lot of times there's probably folks who, hey, me not having that regular schedule, I have a little bit more free time, and we take advantage of it. And there's nothing wrong with taking advantage of that. Listen, by the way, I think a lot of people got into this business, real estate included, because it provided a flexible schedule, right?
Money and time. That's
Money
the
and
reason.
time, right?
Yep.
But there is a risk of taking that too far, right? And not having that professional discipline of, hey, my day is planned out. I have a schedule. I'm going to start at this time. I'm going to try to end at this time. And I think the other side of that coin, which is where you're probably having a challenge with, is you don't know when the workday starts and when it ends. And so now you found yourself working much longer days than are probably even required. But we're doing it without really consciously knowing that we are.
Yeah, and we're very fortunate. We're in an industry right now that we've been blessed again with low interest rates, record low rates, and we're busier than we've been in many years. So it's there's no shortage of opportunity for our folks right now.
Yeah. Listen, right now, if you're in...
you can dial it in right now and sit back and log in 12, 14-hour days, and there's plenty of opportunity.
Yeah, plenty of opportunity. I think
more so than most.
Yeah, I think right now in the financial services and real estate, it's a little bit easier than it's been in the past for us to get business. Our challenge maybe is that it's so easy to get business right now that some of your professional disciplines slip.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Right now it's you may have deviated from the start year business plan because you're not able to go out and do the one-on-ones in person. You may be neglecting a portion or a segment of that market entirely.
Yeah.
And not doing the normal check-ins because you've got a new opportunity with past clients that were able to save lots of money by doing refis right now. So you focus, maybe the time goes into that, and you spend a little bit less time, or you're not as disciplined going after our core customer.
Yeah.
Which is the real estate agent.
Which is a real estate agent. Yeah. It's one of the keynote speakers at the conference we were at this past week said, and I wrote down this quote, "It's hard to stay hungry when you're well fed."
Yep, that was a great point.
Right. And so my takeaway from that was, when business is rolling in right now as easy as it is, we tend to lose sight of what were the behaviors and the disciplines that got us to where our business is at right now. Mm-hmm. And you stop executing them. And as you know, when at some point when you stop, that business starts to dry up a little bit too,
Yeah.
And I don't know, my personal feeling about it, and you might call me that jerk, but I think right now is the time to work harder than you ever have before on your systems and on your processes, right? The mistake that we can make as professionals, right, as sales professionals right now when business is really good, is that we just roll with the punches every day. And my feeling is now is the time to assess.
Take the easy stuff.
Yes.
There's plenty of easy stuff right now, and it's a way to avoid the hard stuff.
Yeah, but I think we should also be assessing our systems. Right now would be the time. What worked for your business when you were closing, let's say 10 loans a month in our business, doesn't work for closing 20. So if you haven't changed your systems and your processes at the current level of business that you're at, that rat race that you feel you're in right now is never going to go away.
And we're feeling it right now.
Oh, we're definitely feeling it right now, And I think some of the fear too is, well, I don't know how long this is going to last. And, I don't want to staff up, or I don't want to change my systems, or I don't want to make hires because if this doesn't last, I don't want to have to revert. I don't want to have to lay people off, whatever it is. One, I would tell you, I think that's coming from a place of fear. But two, I think we're going to be in this environment that we're in right now for an extended period of time.
Probably so, yes.
And I just look at, whether you're a single LO or you're a branch manager or you run a team, whatever it is, we've talked about this before, like you're a business owner, which also gives you the title of leader. And lead is an action verb, right? And so to me, great leaders are always developing people for other great opportunities. Like that's a sign of a great leader. And I was sharing with one of our regional managers today, I had a conversation with, I was commending them on the job well done because they're creating opportunities. Like they're taking in people to fill positions that they don't necessarily have the experience or skill set for, and they're coaching, training, developing them, and they're providing career opportunities for people who may not normally have had this type of an opportunity. Mm-hmm. And so I think I love that type of person because I think the other side of that, like I said, is living a little bit in fear of, hey, I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. I don't know how long this is going to last. I don't want to make changes and then have to make more changes. I think you always got to be moving forward. If you're not growing, it's like you've heard me talk before about, a muscle that atrophies. If you break your arm and you put your arm in a cast, when they take that cast off, your muscle is much smaller than it was before the cast, right? And because when you're not using that muscle, it atrophies. And so I would say the same thing about your business. When you're not actively trying to grow it, like say lifting weights or whatever, that business begins to atrophy. And at some point, there's not a whole lot less. I use the example, when I was in production, I had at the time I got out of production, I had a steady influx or receipt of referrals. Referral partners were sending me deals. I was closing deals. When I no longer was searching for that business or asking for that business, how many referrals do you think I get today?
0.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it ends up at 0.
Right. And so I use it as an example of if you're not constantly trying to build relationships or keep the relationships you already have, at some point they go away.
They go away. Fertilize and water.
Yeah.
You have to keep growing.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk. We've been talking a little bit, John, about professional standards pre-COVID and the current environment. What about personal ones?
Like,
are you eating any better?
I'm probably eating a little bit worse. I've gone through stages.
How are those M&Ms treating you?
The M&Ms are delicious. No, it's definitely changed a lot. My routine is off, and I'm still not back active in the gym. Mm-hmm. Trying to do a little bit of exercise remote. As I go to the park and do some walk runs and try to do a little bit, but entirely different than it was pre-COVID. I had gotten in or always had a fairly consistent routine where, exercise was a big part of my week and my schedule. And not for any specific reason of fear of going back to the gym. I'll use it as a combination. It's probably becoming more of an excuse than of a fear right now. Initially, when the gyms closed, it became, you form a habit in 21 days, right?
Yes.
So quickly, I got used to not going to the gym.
Yes.
And it was something that after a couple of months, I missed, but I didn't miss.
Yes.
And then we just opened back up here in Florida probably within the last 60 days. Mm-hmm. And still haven't, just because we are super busy and fortunate in our business and our industry, I haven't time blocked it out. Yeah. And in fact, when we traveled to Orlando, I did have a little time to think about that, and that's something that I intentionally, as you would say, need to get back on my schedule and get in the habit of blocking that time to go.
Yeah, 100%. Everything always comes down to intention and
I had a very specific time. As you said, I would drop my kids off at 7:15 in the morning, and then I'd cram in 45 minutes an hour at the gym before I hit my day.
Yeah.
And that got me going in the morning, and I know you did something similar.
Yeah.
So that not happening is just the gym's not slid back in.
Yeah. I think for me too. I definitely got derailed on the habit when the gyms closed. And I tried to make the move to, okay, well, I'm just going to do the home gym. Well, everybody in the world had that idea. I couldn't find gym equipment online to buy anywhere. And so now I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get workouts in, when the gym's not closing. You just, like you said, you got out of that habit and you kind of liked being out of that habit. Like, hey, this waking up early thing, it's okay, so, but now like trying to get back in it is a little bit harder, to get back after it. I think, from the diet or the eating perspective, for me, I find that, when food is accessible to me easily, I really like to eat it. Like, I love it.
That's a great point.
And when it's not, I don't eat as much. And so, like, as an example, today, had I not brought my lunch here to the office, I probably wouldn't have eaten lunch. But at home, I would have eaten lunch and a couple of snacks, maybe a couple sodas, because all of that stuff is accessible to me there. But when you get in an environment, like what was my typical environment, I tended to eat a little bit better because I had some triggers in place or some things in place that were, preventing me from doing that,
Yeah.
But dude, I don't know. I'm having a harder time keeping a diet going than I can ever remember having in a while.
Agreed.
And I am getting better at getting back into the gym. And so, hopefully that's an encouragement for some folks who might be watching. Like, it's not easy. I get it. You gotta be intentional and you gotta have a plan. How about this? This is a big one right now in our industry.
Go for it.
Rest and relaxation.
Yeah, that's not happening. Yeah, if you're in the mortgage industry right now, just wait, and probably 6 months, we'll give you some rest.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, yeah, we talk about that jokingly aside, but now, it is important to time block that and make sure that you do get up and, take a quick lap around, maybe a walk down to the circle wherever you're working from and stretch your legs a little bit, get out and stretch and, and close down your laptop for 5 minutes every hour or something. And just, normally in an office, you've got to remember statistically an 8-hour day. I think folks work about 5.5 hours tops. I'm at home right now, an 8-hour day. We're working 8 hours. I mean, I think you would agree that we've got a lot of folks right now that don't walk to the water cooler, don't BS about what happened over the weekend or any of that interaction that you normally have.
Yeah.
You're sitting eye-locked, for 8 hours stretches.
You're standing at the computer all day long.
Yeah.
I'm thinking too, and you're absolutely right about that. I'm gonna expand that idea a little bit more. And I think we got people in our business who aren't taking enough time off. Okay.
Agreed.
And so listen, I was one of the worst ones when the market started to shift and opportunity started to come about. I was like, work like there's no tomorrow. You don't know when you're going to get this opportunity again. You don't know how long this is going to last, right? And we use the words like, hey, go make hay while there's hay to be made. Well, everybody eventually got going.
And here we are 6 months later.
And here we are 6 months later, and we're still going at it that way. And I think that you've got to take some time off, whether it's, hey, I'm going to take a Saturday and a Sunday off, because I know probably a lot of folks in our business, including real estate, they're working probably most of Saturday, if not a half a day on Saturday, maybe even starting, on the weekends. But you've got to take some time off. I promise you that if you do, when you come back to it, you'll have fresher ideas, your mind will be sharper, and your work will naturally improve. But at some point, we're getting to the point where fatigue is really starting to set in. And maybe that's where probably some of your professional standards go because of fatigue as well. And it's just important to make sure that you're taking time away to rest and recharge those batteries.
Absolutely.
And it's hard when you're as busy as you are and you feel like, goodness gracious, I never clear out this email inbox, and I never get all of my voicemails returned. And I tell you, one of the things like I struggle with is, today we have all of these devices that we get stuff, right? We get text messages, we get Facebook messages, we get email, we get phone calls. One of the ones I'm worst at is text. Like I'll settle down at the end of the day and be like, oh my goodness, because I read the text, I just don't respond to it. And I'll be like, oh my goodness, this person texted me like 6 hours ago and I haven't responded yet. Because what happened was the text came through while I was on a call or on a Zoom or something like that, and it distracted me with the pop-up, but I didn't let it take me away from what I was doing, and next thing you know, I never responded. So anyways, let me ask you this. Is there anything new that you're doing that you weren't doing before because of the new environment that we're in?
A lot of Zoom calls. Essentially that's become the new norm, right? Business webinars, Zoom calls, meetings that we didn't do in the past. Zoom one-on-ones. I mean, rather than just a normal phone call, we do it in front of video.
Okay.
And I think that's where it's important that you hold those levels, that standard. And the one thing that I want to add is when you are on a Zoom call, have your camera on, right?
Oh, man, that drives me crazy.
We got some folks today on our iron call to go ahead and open up a camera. But I think that that's important, guys. If you're going to do or interact on Zoom, make sure you're utilizing the camera feature. So you are engaged, and we know you're engaged.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
well, I think that listen, I think those that get on a Zoom call that don't have their camera on, there's a reason for it. Like, we all know there's a reason for it.
They're still in the shorts and they haven't showered. That's the reason.
It's something like
they
that,
just rolled
right?
Out of bed,
or hey, I forgot about the meeting. I'm not really ready for the work day or whatever. Yeah. I think the whole purpose of a Zoom call is that it's a video conference. Get on the video in the same way that you would if we were sitting in this conference room, ready to have a meeting. I think that that's a professional standard that has definitely slipped since COVID.
Yes.
I think before, when Zoom wasn't as frequent, there were more people on the camera. I think the other thing that happens is
they're multitasking.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
So they're not necessarily focused on.
They're
the call.
just kind of sort of listening while they do something else.
They call a day or two later and ask you what you covered.
Yeah.
What I missed.
Yeah. Yeah. So I will say. So I want to give you an example of something that's good that has come out of the changes that we've gone through in the last 6 months, at least for me personally. With me working at home quite a bit more, I would say 90% of the time, and my children being home, I started a habit about a month ago where I take one of them out for breakfast every morning, once a week. So I take one of them, say the first week of the month, the other one the second week of the month, and then, every other like that. But it's funny because the first time I took my oldest daughter out for breakfast, she was kind of like, "Hey, Daddy, I don't understand why we're doing this." And I was like, I just wanted to have breakfast with you. We never ever get opportunities. Well, once we sat down at the restaurant, man, I don't know that she took a breath for like 45 minutes. She was just talking, which was the whole purpose that I wanted to get her out, was to get her talking and communicating with me and everything like that. So it's turned out to be really, really awesome. And I would encourage anybody who's listening, if your work environment has changed, if your disciplines have changed, if whatever you've had to adapt to, try to also find some good in it.
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed to say that it took me 5 months to take advantage of that. But it's something that's really been great for us. When you get on purpose, you'll find that everything is easier to do. Right? It's like the difference between trying to run in Jell-O and just trying to run. Right? When you get intentional, when you get on purpose, when you have a plan, everything, I promise you, everything gets so much more fluid. So, and I just end that with saying, hey, I appreciate everybody logging in and checking out our podcast, the Contacts to Contracts podcast. I'm Bryan Lovell again with John Jones. How can John and I help you? More than just a couple talking heads on a podcast. We are available. We would love to help you out in any type of business that you're in, whether it's real estate and or mortgage. We're here to help. If you like the podcast, let us know. We'd love for you to subscribe, share it to anybody who you think might find value in it. And if there's anything you ever need, please know. John and I, always here to serve.
Thanks, Bryan.
Thank you.